Ready? Good evening. I'd like to call to order our special board meeting on June 12th, 2023 of the Woodford County Board of Education. We are here at the Woodford County High School. For roll call, all members are present and in person. The only item on our agenda today is our superintendent evaluation, so I will need a motion to go into executive session pursuant to KRS 61.8101K. Is that correct, Mr. Chenoweth?
It is.
Okay.
That's for meetings that are required to be conducted in closed session, and KRS 156.557 requires superintendent's evaluation, preliminary discussions to be in closed session.
Okay.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Glass,
Second.
second by Mr. Brickler. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0. Okay, we will retire into executive session. Okay, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order our regular meeting of the Woodford County Board of Education. We are at Woodford County High School. Oh, no, we did not. Okay, all right. I need a motion to return from executive session pursuant to KRS 61.8101K.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Glass,
Second.
second by Ms. McCowan. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. And a motion to adjourn from executive
So
session.
moved.
Motion by Ms. Glass,
Second.
second by Mr. Brickler. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Ms. Cooper. Now I'd like to call to order the special regular meeting of the Woodford County Board of Education. We are here at Woodford County High School, and let the roll call show all members present and in person. Do you want to do the moment of silence now?
Before we get started with our meeting this evening, our school community and our community in general have been affected over the last couple of months with some incidents and I guess you'd say some misfortunate occurrences. We've had a student, Mr. Clinton Brown, who I think was a graduate of 2020. I know he was an athlete here, was taken way too early back in May. And then just 2 weeks ago, I think we recognized Miss Jessica Coleman, 17-year science teacher over at our middle school. She had been battling a type of brain cancer for several years, and we lost her Friday morning, if I'm not mistaken. It was Friday morning, so just a very unfortunate situation. I'd like to ask everyone to, if we could, let's please take a moment of silence in memory of these two individuals. Thank you. Mrs. Coleman's visitation will be from 4 to 8 on Thursday. We'll get that information sent out to everyone as to where. But then the funeral, I think, will be Friday. So we'd appreciate everyone that could come and support the family. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Atkins. Would everyone stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Where is the flag? The flag is right on the back wall. And Ms. Hash, would you do us the honor of being our student leader for the pledge tonight? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any proposed amendments to the agenda?
There are none.
Okay. Then we'll move on to our superintendent report.
Superintendent's report, I want to focus on our celebration of success. We had June 1st. I think the days are all running together right now. I think it was last Thursday. Was it last Thursday? And we had a great turnout for that. Both mayors, Mayor Thurman, Mayor Troggett, County Judge James Kay, came out, helped us MC the thing, and helped us pay for the student desserts. We had 275 students that we fed that day, that afternoon actually, after the parade. We had some great floats, we had some great celebration, and had some pretty good television coverage through that. But we're celebrating everything that's gone really well. And it's all about our kids, and they have done really, really, really well over the last 2 years. So again, the mayor reached out and Judge Kay, and they were talking about, let's celebrate the great things that have happened athletically. Well, we've had a lot of good things happen academically too. So we kind of just clumped everybody together and got them in there and started calling off groups. And we just had the best time with it and got over here, and we had families with their chairs set out. We had, kids running around playing. That's what they do when they get a big empty field. So we just had a very good time. Several different food vendors were set up for the adults, and I know a couple of those sold out. I mean, it was a big event. It was a really good event. And in talking with Judge James Kay and the mayors, they all feel like it could be even bigger next year. So we're putting the pressure back on our kids now to be successful again, so we can do that, have that little celebration again, and just get everybody together. But it was a really good evening for the district and the community too. So I loved that. I think I saw Miss McCown out. I know I saw Mr. Brickler out. It was a great opportunity just to everybody get out and celebrate our kids. Our softball girls that same night, they had drawn, after winning the region, they drew the number one team in the state, and I don't know, they may have won it. I think they did, but I'm not sure. But it was a good showing. Got beat 4-0, but it was a very good showing. We didn't get mercied. We played well. We just couldn't hit the ball. They had a really good pitcher, but we've had so many great things going on here in the district. I could not let tonight go by without just talking about the successes we've had. And I'll wrap that up with my superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Atkins. Move on to our good news report. Ms. Springate, would you like to start us off? We are going to have a special good news report today because it is Ms. Hash's last meeting with us. So we wanted to make it a Hannah Hash good news report. So it's all about Hannah. So go ahead, Ms. Springate.
You want to put all the pressure on Ms. Hatch?
No, I meant for us to give.
To just celebrate you.
Yes,
Gotcha.
yes.
Well, I'm clapping because sorry.
We really, really appreciate having student voice. And tonight, we just, instead of going around and talking about everything, we just wanted to laser focus on you. We're just going to miss having you here unless you run again and then come back, I guess. Well, you'll have to recruit someone because honestly, having student voice is so wonderful. I feel like it really gives us some inside information about what's going on at the high school, and then just allows us to kind of hear from the students, because so many times we make decisions for students and about students, but when you involve students, it's just a whole different conversation, and I really appreciate that. So thank you.
So I have 2 daughters, and my youngest dances with you at the dance studio. And I just want you to know how impressive you are as a father to 2 daughters, that you get to be a role model for them, because and I'm getting a little, girl dad stuff, but your accomplishments in academics, in your extracurriculars, being a part of this board, dance, everything you do is such a good example for other girls. So thank you for that.
Amanda? Ms. Glass.
Sorry, that's hard to follow up. Well, I know how busy you are. I talk to your mom a lot at lacrosse, so I appreciate you caring enough and wanting to be a voice for the students and to show up every month and sometimes twice a month when we have meetings and offer us feedback, and also keep up with your studies and all your other stuff you do. So we wish you the best senior year, and you can't be a stranger. You got to come show up. So thank you, Hannah.
Okay, lots of good things said, but I just would like to share, I didn't know you before I joined the board in January, but I had seen meetings and seen how involved you were. And in just this short time, and just over the year that you've been serving in this role, I've seen you grow. You are confident and you know what you're talking about. I think that you have the respect of your fellow students, and they couldn't have chosen a better person to represent them. And totally impressed. I hope you have the best senior year, and I have no doubt you will be successful in whatever you choose to do. So thank you, Hannah.
Mr. Atkins?
Well, Hannah was the first recipient of a plaque for this role. And Hannah has gone so above and beyond. I guess I would say the first meeting I ever had with Hannah, the board chair at that time, and Miss Hannah and I had a sit down and out here in the office and had a great conversation. I was just so impressed with her understanding and her desire to see better things and good things happening for her fellow students and for her school and her district. So I thought, Miss Angel, we need to get a plaque together. Now, I apologize for not having it here tonight, but I gave it to you before school was out because we didn't know if you'd be here. So I wanted to make sure we got you that plaque, okay? It is, certainly. School's out and she's still here. So thank you very much for your dedication. And again, it's always good to get the students' perspective. So thank you.
And Hannah, I have known your family and you since, you were a baby. Hannah went to daycare with my kids and with her brother. So we've known Hannah for a long time. And I've gotten to watch you grow up, and we're all so proud of you. I echo everything that everybody around this table has said. I think you're a really accomplished, poised, confident young woman, and we're lucky to have you as a role model for all the girls in Woodford County. And I think we'll probably end up having a fight next year between the 5 of us as to who gives you your diploma, but I think that you'll probably get 5 big fat hugs anyway. So congratulations. Thank you for everything you've done. Okay. All right, moving. Oh, do you want to share anything about? Yeah.
One final good news report. Wasn't ready for that, but thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Just for one, I know our high school cheerleaders are having a car wash fundraiser at AutoZone in Versailles this Saturday from 10:30 to 3:30. So if you've got a dirty car or just want to support our cheerleaders, you can 10 out of 10 show up to that, and I know they will get you fixed up. We also kicked off summer school today at the high school, which I thought we should just mention because it is impossible without the teachers and staff that show up here to make that happen. So I wanted to give them a quick shout out and say a huge thank you to them. So, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, next we have the instructional and equity report. Mr. Asher.
Good evening. I will be pretty brief. We recently had a meeting, just a couple weeks ago, so not a lot has happened since then, but I always start off with a number. It is day 1 of summer school here at high school, as Ms. Hash mentioned. So summer school is up and running at all levels at this point. Last week, we had elementary and middle school both housed at the middle school. We're averaging about 135 for elementary. We do expect that to go up. There were several camps last week, so they'll come back tomorrow. That's Tuesday through Thursday that program runs. So we do expect that'll go up from 135. Middle school, we have 11 students. That is somewhat of a good thing because it is a credit recovery model. And then high school today, we had 93 come through the doors this morning. And thank you to both Dr. Sargent, Dr. Smith, who are organizing that. It started flawlessly as far as what came in, registration, got them their devices, and got things rolling right away this morning. So thanks to them. Also mentioned last meeting, I mentioned about our first round of Best Practice Academy. So over the course of, 5 different sessions, we had 164 participants, teacher participants taking part in anything from technology training that Dr. Rayburn did, deeper learning. We had several take part in that. Gifted and Talented, where our new Gifted and Talented coordinator, Mr. Grigsby, had the opportunity to train 25 teachers, and then our PLC training was the big one. We had over 80 participants. And then finally, Heather Sherman, who is our career and readiness coordinator, did a training for about 9 teachers about how to do the career readiness in the classroom, strategies to bring that into the classroom. So those are my main updates. Honestly, I do not have anything further in terms of equity. We did have our meeting, which I mentioned, still focusing on building capacity and how that'll look at for school level teams. So that'll be our emphasis for next year. But any questions you may have, I'll take those.
Any questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Asher.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Cooper, do we have no public comment tonight? So we'll move on to the consent agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Motion, I can't even speak. Motion by Ms. Glass. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. McCowan. Any discussion?
I don't have any specific discussion, but I would just ask the superintendent, is there anything in the consent agenda with the policies or the contracts, anything, the fees that has changed or that you would need to kind of let us know or let the public know?
The biggest thing that I can think of that we haven't already discussed would be, and we had this discussion somewhat when we had our salary meeting, and we talked about our emergency days. If you'll recall, we talked about emergency days having to be approved by the superintendent. Some districts are going completely away from those. So what we looked at was going completely away from them, but still offering them as a possible sick day or a personal day. Well, the district can only allow, any district can only allow 3 personal days. So we've gone ahead and tacked those on to the sick days, which is, again, is another benefit for our staff and hopefully another retention tool and a recruiting tool. Garrett, do you remember the numbers on those? I know it's 3, but the way we're set up, that would go 13, 14, and 15? Am I correct? Is that,
It's currently 10, 11, and 12.
right, so it'd be 13, 14.
Contract days, now 13, 14, and 15.
Yeah.
Sorry. 10, 11, 12, now 13, 14, 15.
And Ms. Springate, the rest of it is pretty much just legal, what we had to do through KSBA.
Other questions or comments? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0. Okay, moving on to our regular agenda. Can I have a motion to accept notification of personnel matters?
So moved.
It's a motion by Ms. Glass.
Second.
Ooh. I think it goes to you, Sarah. Second by Ms. McCowan. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0. Can I have a motion for accept notification of payment of bills?
So moved.
A motion by Ms. McCowan,
Second.
second by Mr. Brickler. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0. Can I have a motion to approve meeting minutes of the May 30th, 2023 board meeting?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Brickler,
Second.
second by Ms. McCowan. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0. Item D is hiring of our school board attorney. So I will need a motion to hire an attorney. And I guess whoever makes the motion will just need to tell me what attorney you are recommending for us to vote on. And then we can discuss. Is there a motion?
I motion to hire Eric Ferris as the board attorney.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Brickler, a second by Ms. Glass to hire Mr. Eric Ferris as our board attorney. Okay, any discussion on this?
I do think that it was nice to interview everyone and to hear from everyone. And I do appreciate Ms. McCowan and Mr. Brickler getting the references for some of the attorneys. I don't think that really we could go wrong. There were, they all seem to be really great. So,
Okay. Any comments, questions from anybody? Are we ready to take a vote on that then? Okay. All in favor of hiring Eric Ferris as our board attorney, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes 5-0.
So we'll reach out to Mr. Ferris and his firm and make them aware
Okay,
and go ahead and get them a schedule,
okay,
those types of things.
Wonderful.
And just ask them what they need from us, okay?
yep. And Mr. Chenoweth, do we need any sort of transition with you and him, I assume, that you guys will take care of that, or?
I know Mr. Ferris pretty well, so anything he needs, he just needs to contact me.
Okay,
I'm in his phone and he's in mine, so that won't be a problem.
okay, excellent.
Ms.
And
McHale,
he will have to prepare a contract as well, am I correct? Or,
He probably will have a standard.
yeah, I was gonna say, I'm sure he would have the
He'll bring
same
one.
contract.
He'll bring one. Ms. McHale, just procedurally, I don't know that everyone else is watching tonight. Will you or Mr. Atkins one contact the other folks and just let them
Well,
know?
so there were only 2 that we were discussing, and I will contact the other one. Yes, I already contacted the first 3 after the first round, so it's just this last one. Yep. Okay. Next agenda item is our after-school enrichment ETC salary options.
All right. I think there's a chart, maybe a comparison chart in there to show you all. Do you all have any specific questions you want to ask us, or just jump right in?
There it is.
Maybe, do we have a hard copy?
Oh, my gosh.
It's attached.
I'm so
Yeah.
old, I can't even see this.
Actually, I was gonna
Holy
say,
moly. Okay.
Dr. Ravens brought it up on the
Yep.
screen.
Yeah, the only question that I have is, Then what is this going to do to the rates for ETC? And nothing? We can cover all of
As
this?
of right now, nothing. With our costs being what they are currently, and with the funding that we've received through grants to cover our payroll from the past and the foreseeable future, it will not affect tuition rates at all at this time. Now, that being said, next school year, that may change slightly, not to cover payroll, but just to cover continuing expenses.
Sure.
Because our food costs have gone up drastically, everything has gone up drastically.
Right, okay. Any other questions?
I guess we probably just need to review that at some point. I know sometimes we would have on the, we used to get a summary, like a summary sheet from the CFO, and they would pull out certain things if we were concerned about making sure that if we made a change, we wanted to see how it was affecting month to month. And so we did that with one-to-one devices at one point, and we've done that with other things, just so that we can keep an eye on that and remember. Is that something, Mr. Atkins, you can have included? I know we don't do the summary sheet, but just as part of the financial report, so we can kind of keep an eye on, are we okay with the costs? Because I know this is supposed to be a freestanding program.
Sure, so you're talking about their balances and.
Just, and
sorry,
then that way we
Andy.
can be on top of things if
Sure.
we need to look at some rate increases or something, so that the program self-supports. I don't know if that's a requirement by law, but we want to make sure that
Yeah.
we're, aware of that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Currently,
we
our
can add that.
balances are very much not a question. But we always, pre-COVID, we liked to carry enough balance to cover us for at least 3 months on payroll. So that way, if there was ever an issue where we are state licensed, that if there was ever an issue where a site was shut down, us paying staff would not be a problem, because each school has its own license number. So if one were to be shut down for whatever reason, let's pray it never happens, then that would not affect any of the other sites. But we would still have to pay those staff.
And, I will say this, that this is such an important piece of what we do in our community.
Yeah.
That I can't ever see it going away, even if it's not completely freestanding.
Yeah.
There is
Just
no
such
other
a-
program. There's
no
no
other
other
program.
option.
And we need more. We need
And the waiting
more.
list, I mean,
Yeah.
you've got a waiting list still, to this
Well,
day.
and I
waiting
think you
list.
all know that we did have a waiting list, and it was because we could not acquire staffing and
Yeah.
keep staff. So our proposed, suggestion to you all is to increase the ETC by at least $1. They already got $1 because you all passed that last board meeting, but to increase it for another $1 for both assistants and the coordinators, to make us more
Pull us in line, yeah.
in line with what's going on out there, and even with some places like Kroger that they're not even childcare, but they are a competitor basically for income for us. And so you can leave us and go bag for more money.
With no responsibilities for more pay.
So we would love to see that. We have the funds, we have money coming in, we are self-supporting. So this is not going to fiscally impact the district at all, or impact our parents too. We're not going to raise their rates. So I think we've had this discussion several times this year. We've made it,
I think we had a standing meeting there at one time
Yeah.
every week that we. Gary,
Yeah.
We did.
myself,
It
you
was-
guys
it was
met.
a weekly
and we
meeting
have
to
been
discuss
very
where we were.
inventive on what we
Yeah.
are trying to fix the problem. We're doing some things with the high school next year to try to increase people, students that are 18 years or older coming in and helping us in the afternoon and paying them. So our hope is that we are going to have enough staff to accommodate all the children that need to be in our program or want to be in our program. But it starts with being competitive.
We gotta have people.
We gotta have people. It starts with people.
As we stand right now with our current staffing, the way that it was this previous school year, I already have a wait list for next school year
Yeah.
for Southside Elementary for 2 groups.
That was before
this
school was
spring-
out.
And
this
yeah,
spring
and
date,
that
we-
was before school was even out.
We can surely add that to our monthly report. So the balance, yeah.
Just something to keep an eye on it month-wise. I know it's, a service that, especially with all the stars, your centers are all, not just a place for kids to be, but a quality place for kids to be. And so I know there's always been a wait list, even when my children were small. So, it's definitely a great service.
Well, I appreciate that comment. We really appreciate that comment. It doesn't, that we're being recognized for that, because it takes a lot of effort to just not be a 1-star.
Sure, and
It
it's a
takes a
springboard.
lot of
in-
effort.
It's a springboard into what we do. I mean, it's that starting on the right foot into early education. So, thank you all. You've done a yeoman's job this year.
How many
just
people-
battling staff.
I'm sorry. How many people are you hoping to hire this summer?
I would like to have, we've
I
hired
know.
like 5 within the last 2 weeks just to work summer.
Mm-hmm.
It's some where their parents are employees of the district elsewhere, they want a little extra money. They're coming to work just summer. Hey, my kid's home from college this summer. Can you use them?
Mm-hmm.
So I've hired like 5 in the last 2 weeks just for summer.
What do we need for fall?
But for fall, we're probably gonna need between 10 to 15 staff to come in the fall, not have a wait list, not have to worry about 6 people calling in one day, having to shut down a site, having one site, God forbid, get COVID again, and having to shut them down and bus, praying, then we would have enough staff within the district to move people around enough that it wouldn't be a problem.
Right.
Because no matter where you work at, all of the same training requirements, all of the extra that we have to do just for our staff, the extra background checks and everything that have to be done just for our staff for daycare regulations would be covered, and then we wouldn't have to worry about it. That is our hope.
Okay.
Now, unfortunately, this is another reason we're asking for the full dollar is because we're only asking staff to work 4.5 hours a day as an assistant, which is a lead teacher in a classroom. All of these others are at least 8 hours a day, between 6 and 8 hours a day. So that's our biggest competitor right there, is the fact that I'm not offering them a full-time job. I cannot offer them a full-time job. That's not what our program is. But I need the same quality of people that are trying to find a full-time job that have something going on somewhere else.
But if
They don't need all
they
that.
wanted full-time, we could work with them. There's other options.
Oh, yeah.
There's
yeah.
other jobs that we can supplement the other hours for, so. it's
We
just
work very
something-
closely with the cafeteria and the bus department.
Okay.
Very, very closely.
That's great to know. I mean, that's a
Yes,
really good.
Because those are also
that's a-
areas that are struggling with
Yeah,
staffing.
that's a really good opportunity, I think, for people that,
We have a lot of staff that bus monitor in the morning and then work with us in the afternoon.
that's good to know.
And they contract one way or another, or sometimes cross-contract.
Great. Okay. Great. Any other questions? We kind of did it backwards, but now I'll take a motion.
Well, we appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you for coming up here. Motion by Ms. Glass,
Second.
a second by Mr. Brickler. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Angel has a question.
Oh, Angel has a question. The motion is to approve, Angel, gosh, you are just such a stickler. My goodness. The motion is to approve the after-school enrichment ETC salary options of $1.
For both assistants
Yes,
and
oh, sorry.
coordinators.
Yes. For the assistants and the
For all.
coordinators.
TC employees, which are assistants and coordinators.
Okay.
Thank you. We need that in writing.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Nay. 5-0, the motion passed. That was not me
I was gonna
saying
say,
nay. I was
Angela, you
saying
didn't say
all-
nay, did you?
I did not. No, I voted yes.
In her
you.
head, she's seeing nay and she's writing.
That's
I know.
exactly,
Thank you
yes.
so much. We
Thank
really
you for
appreciate it.
doing all this work on this, and thank you for pouring so much into that program, because as Ms. Springate said, it is a huge blessing.
Well,
So,
we will definitely keep you apprised of how it's going through the next few months, and
Okay,
thank
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next item is approve FY24 cyber insurance. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Glass,
Second.
second by Mr. Brickler. Any discussions or questions?
I have a question about it. I was just wondering, Mr. Smith, if you could tell us, or if somebody could tell us what the sublimit difference from last year to this year with regard to the ransomware?
Absolutely. I'm going to allow Mr. David Livingston from Houchins to present the information, and he'll be much better capable to answer all the questions about both property and casualty and cyber for the next agenda item. So,
I always love being handed the mic. To answer your question, the difference between the sublimits on the cyber, the markets have tightened up. And if you don't have multi-factor authentication, which there's maybe only one school in the state that I'm aware of that does full on for all staff, then they limit ransomware. It's a scenario where if you put it in during the year, they will raise that limit up for you. But there was a pilot program that KDE did throughout the state, I think with about 7 or 8 districts. It wasn't announced. It was just kind of quietly done. We just happened to find out about it because one of our other schools was in the pilot program. So allegedly, MFA is going to be rolling out. But of course, KDE won't answer any questions when we try to find out information on kind of what the system securities are, so we can try to get the best premium and best coverages for the school districts. So we're kind of left to, the school says this is what we have, and that's how we go to market with it. And I can understand KDE doing that because they view us as a vendor, but it's also very frustrating because there could be a lot more information that could be shared to potentially provide better coverage and better premium.
So, Mr. Livingston, real quick, what you just described to us, the pilot through KDE, I hadn't heard of it myself. But so I guess they're piloting a new type of security that would allow us possibly to.
I'll tell you, like I tell Mrs. Livingston, I told you everything I know. That is all I know, and that just came from another district that I work with that was sharing with me that they were involved in the pilot, and I don't know what the pilot consisted of or anything like that.
Okay, thank you.
Now, we are, I think, in the process at least, we've done some multi-factor authentication, right? So are we,
Most of us have to.
but that was 100%, right?
That's correct. That's correct.
Do we have a plan to get there? And sorry, Dr. Rayburn, for putting you on the spot now.
Because we can do this without KDE. We could do MFA authentication, I think. Yes.
Yeah, so we are already 100% in appliance for staff. We are not for students because we cannot do that for students. And part of this problem with KDE is our VPN, which allows us to access the network for remote work and stuff like that, to get into Munis and other platforms that require us to have access as if we were sitting on site, but be on a different location. KDE does not require that to be multi-factor, so that is one of the areas that KDE has to change because they provide that service to us. So those are areas that we are not, but staff is 100% multi-factored already and has been for 2 years or more.
Yeah, okay. Right, okay. So we really can't
Get that best.
get the second
Yeah, yeah,
policy.
Correct. Yes, yes. And again, I don't know enough about what's happening at KDE because I get sent around in circles, and it is what it is. It's government.
So we'll get more cowbell, is
Yes.
what I'm reading
Well, actually,
from this.
no, actually, you're going from Cowbell to Tokyo Marine.
But that has the,
The Cowbell is 2022-23. That's what you currently have.
oh, we're in 23 right now,
Correct,
right? Yeah.
correct. So Cowbell without the MFA would not do it at all. So
But the Tokyo Marine.
it has a higher sublimit, but it also has a co-insurance limit, which means you would pay 25%, you would pay your deductible plus 25% of the loss
Okay,
before the coverage would kick in.
okay. So less cowbell.
Less Cowbell, yes, ma'am. And talking about if that's something that you all want to look at doing in the future, we know our lanes in our agency, and we actually have a cyber specialist that he's an attorney, and he worked in IT for some hospital divisions, and he's the one that works with all the cyber markets and talks to them and helps to explain to them what we have going on. And we also have other folks that we could, I wouldn't say recommend, but we could pass their name on to you to kind of give you an idea of what it would take to, but again, you're 100% locally, so until KDE steps in and does what they're supposed to do.
Are these limits, the sublimit, is that aggregate per instance? What is that?
That is per instance up to the $1 million.
Up to the $1 million.
Correct.
So do we have a history of what we've claimed this year?
Nothing this year.
Nothing this year?
Correct. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Did have something. I do believe we have something.
Yeah.
One, yeah, and it was maybe the year prior to I came here.
Right.
But yeah.
Okay,
And I think it was actually, yes, that's correct.
okay.
My direct deposit got stolen in Floyd County. Somebody called and said, hey, reroute it to this, and they're like, well, they're really nice, Mr. Atkins, so we just did it. I'm like, I didn't get paid this week.
As long as you got it back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think, like, I really think it's wonderful that we are 100% compliant with what we can do, because anytime you have a big project like the high school, you know, I know Scott County was hit. It's just almost impossible for the
That's where I
folks
live.
in the office. Yeah, but the folks in the office, the CFO office, to be able to, I mean, you know, the scams are so real, and I mean, it's just not possible for a person really to kind of catch some of those things, no matter how great they are or how wonderful they are. So I wish there was some way to get KDE on board. It sounds like maybe they're moving in that direction. If they're doing a pilot, they understand that that's something that we just have to have as districts, because it's just more and more of an issue, and it's a scary amount of money.
Ms. Springate, I probably said this last year, I'm a magistrate over in Scott County, and when I first was elected, I was really frustrated at how slow we moved at doing things. And my person that sat next to me said we move at the speed of government. So that could explain the speed.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, all in favor to approve the cyber insurance to Tokyo Marine?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0. And that'll move us into our FY24 property and casualty insurance. Is there a motion to approve property and casualty insurance remaining with Liberty Mutual?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Glass. I will second that. Any discussion? I mean, it looks like nothing's changing on the policy. It's just nominal increases in rates.
Correct. And do you mind if I indulge for a minute and kind
Please.
of explain some of it to you? KDE, if you aren't aware, they require you to insure, let's see, it's elementary, middle, high school, vocational, central office, storage buildings, bus garages. They tell you the minimum amount that you can insure a building per square foot. Over the last 4 years, that has gone up anywhere from 48% to 60% per square foot. So, you know, at one point in time in 2019-20, a high school was 254 square foot, 254.34 square foot. It's now $378.39 a square foot. So that directly impacts your premium. So this year, your premium or your total insured value of all your buildings went up by about $52 million, and the majority of it is KDE rate. You added some things like the bubble. The membrane structure. Yes, the membrane structure. It sounds scientific, but you know, just some small things like that. But the majority of your property value is driven by the KDE rate increase. And I will tell you this: even though a high school is $378 a square foot, there was one that just opened recently in Western Kentucky that opened up at $512 a square foot. I have an ag barn that's just a show barn with some offices in it that blew down, and we thought it would be about $700,000, $800,000 to replace it. Now that everything has come in, it's going to be $1.6 million. Floyd County, you're probably aware of the bus garage. The initial estimate by the architects was $2.9 million. To rebuild it now after it's bid out, it's $4.9 million. So in reality, your total insured value is actually not where it probably should be, but that's kind of an educated guess until you actually go to bid. The beauty about the policy is it's a blanket limit. So if you need to borrow, you know, if you have the high school insured for $40 million and it's $50 million to rebuild it, and you have all your code and ordinance upgrades and all those things, you can borrow from those limits to help you get to where you need to be.
Do you think some of that is increased just because of the incident rates over the last couple of years of the catastrophes that we've had?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we have, and Mr. Smith and I spoke about this. There are only 4 carriers that write full insurance policies in the state of Kentucky for school districts, and Liberty Mutual writes about 145 of the 171 districts. The others have such stipulations that it pretty much excludes the majority of the districts that are out there that could be written. But they're now beginning to call Western Kentucky and moving into Central Kentucky Tornado Alley.
it's a convective state, and I actually had to go look that up because I'm not a meteorologist, and our storm intensity is just growing, and it's happening more often. We had tornado warnings yesterday in southern Kentucky and eastern Kentucky, so.
Okay. Questions?
Several schools in eastern Kentucky, just total loss.
Yeah.
From the flooding.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. Real quick on the work comp, this is a testament to your administration and to all of your staff. I think you've probably heard before that really the only way to control your work comp cost is your experience mod. And your experience mod, this current year is a 0.86, which means 1 is an average. 0.86 is better than average. So you're doing much better than average, but then next year, for 2023-24, it goes down to a 0.70. And I really think in the formula of the whole thing, I don't know that you could get much lower than a 0.70. I think the lowest we have with all the districts we work with is like a 0.67. So with that 16-point decrease, you're seeing a 28% decrease in work comp, and that's a testament to your staff and administration and working in a safe environment and doing the right things.
That's excellent. Thank you. Okay. Anything else? Questions, comments? Okay. We'll take a vote. All those in favor to approve our property and casualty insurance?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is item H. This is reading and math interventionists be included in the staffing allocations for each elementary school.
Yes, I would like to make a motion that the board approve a reading interventionist and a math interventionist for each elementary school. If approved, according to board policy 02.4331, yearly staffing allocations will reflect these positions.
Second.
Okay, it's a motion by Ms. Springate and a second by Ms. McCowan. Any discussion?
I do have a couple questions. Obviously, we've talked about this before, and I think we all definitely want to make sure that the resources are in the schools. I do want to know, we kind of asked for some feedback, and I think some of us may have received some feedback, but I would invite Mr. Asher to come up and maybe speak a little bit about the needs of the schools, what the information we've talked about, but also what are kind of happening in the schools.
Sure. I'll just jump right in and say that my recommendation would be for one intervention position to be put into the staffing allocation. I say that for several reasons. First and foremost, the schools, elementary schools in particular, have Title I funding. That is needs-based according to their free and reduced population. So schools with higher percentage of free and reduced would receive a larger amount of funding. So if there were additional interventionists needed or wanted at the school, they would have that pot of money to work with. And on average, amongst the 4 elementary schools, and this is probably low, that's about $100,000, and significantly more at schools that would have a higher free and reduced lunch population. So that's the first reason for my recommendation. Secondly, it is obviously adding 8 positions is expensive out of the general fund. You took a step towards improving our overall pay scale for everyone, and I know you have intent to do that. So by adding 8 positions, that's pretty expensive out of general fund. So to save back some money to apply towards that in the future is another reason for my recommendation. Also, a reason for it is just my perspective. 13 and a half years as elementary principal, and just history of how we funded interventionists in the past throughout my whole tenure. RTA, Read to Achieve grant, was one major source of funding for that. It did not cover a full position. It could, but if you had an experienced member, it did not cover the full, so we used Title to pick up that extra. RTA still exists, but it exists differently to where you have to have matching funds. It also requires a very significant amount of professional development, which in the long run really costs you more because you have to compensate teachers for that amount of time. So all that to say RTA does not exist and is not a viable option to fund that interventionist. Through COVID years, we were creative to allow for 2 interventions for obvious reasons. It was much needed and again, still needed. But we got creative either through allocations that schools received of ESSER funds, and then this past year now, we did the RFP to where we funded tangible type materials or online programs to free up schools' budgets so that they could put that towards staffing, hence allowed them to do 2 in most locations. And now coming out of it, now we've got a decision to make. So those are a few reasons. I do think schools could get what they need and what they want if they had an allocation and then could use their title or other funding to get additional that they chose, that they wanted.
And I think, I think that's a really good solution, because what we all wanted to do originally when we were kind of talking is we wanted to give the 2 positions, but if there's a way that we can make 4 positions, for all the schools, part of our normal budget process, and then knowing that the schools have their Title I funding that they can use for the additional position, leaving that revenue in the general fund so that we could use for future raises or whatever we decide to do at that point. I think that makes a lot of sense, because then we're going to have the positions that everybody needs while leaving money in the general fund for future uses. So to me, it feels like we can do a little bit extra on the board side to give everybody what they need and use some existing funds in Title I.
Yeah. And I also think it gives then the schools the flexibility to decide.
What they need.
We're not telling them you have to have this and this. We can say you can have one of these and you can do, and that might change year to year or every couple years. So I like the idea of giving them the flexibility, which has always been my concern in sort of mandating you must have these 2. Because it might not always be the need.
Sorry, I just wanted to add that I have discussed this with elementary principals, and I said if I were asked for a recommendation, this is exactly what I would say, and that's the truth of the matter.
Well, I do appreciate that. I will say that we've approved multiple positions, tons and tons at central office in different locations over the last few months, and not one time has the administration or the board really discussed that would cause us not to have raises in the future for folks. We just haven't treated other positions in the same manner. I think our data clearly indicates that 60% of our free and reduced students in elementary schools are below proficiency in reading. 60%, that's over half. 75% are below proficiency in math. 73% of our English language learners are below proficiency in reading. 75% are below proficiency in math. So I definitely think that speaks to the need for the positions. I also think that the title money that goes to schools is wonderful, and the schools has discretion on how to use that, and they use that for so many different programs and so many different needs. If we don't fund both positions, that means they're not going to have that money free to use how they want. In funding a reading and a math interventionist at each school, that actually frees up local control, frees up the site-based and the principals to be able to use those title allocations. I also think that it's important to note that we've been told repeatedly that these 8 positions are already in the budget for next year, and so it really isn't going to be an additional cost at this point. And then the last thing I would say is we've heard when we go into the schools from the different principals and teachers and interventionists about the new requirements and what's going to be required just data-wise and paperwork-wise. And if we don't have these folks, all of that's going to be pushed back to the classroom teacher as yet another additional requirement and some pretty serious reporting things. We heard both at Southside and Huntertown really spotlighting and highlighting the effectiveness of these positions and how these positions have helped with really those most vulnerable gap groups. To me, it's just like if you look at our current staffing allocations, we have an art teacher at each school. That's not required. The board allocated that, and that's why that happens. We have curriculum specialists, music teachers. And so all I'm saying is that we would simply add in these positions, just like a guidance counselor or a media specialist, as something that the board allocates and pays for out of general fund because we see the need in the schools, because we hear what the teachers and the principals are saying as far as the need, and also so that it frees up that Title I funding money so that that can be used specifically at each school for the multitude of needs. They don't have enough Title I money right now to fund all the projects and the different things that they would like. And so that would free that up and allow them to have that.
And just to piggyback on what Ms. Springate was saying, I think I agree that for schools to have to choose between a full-time sub to cover classes or dedicated interventionist, forcing them to reduce funds to several other areas is what could happen. I think including both of these positions in our staffing formula would guarantee this remains a priority for our district. And so I would be supportive of including both of them.
If I may,
What they typically do with their Title I monies.
if I may, just to the first point that you said about adding positions, and that goes across many different departments, whether technology, my own, special ed, what have you. There isn't another funding source already established to help whatever position it may be. And I'm going back to that Title I. Title I is, in most cases, spent on staffing, whether it be a certified teacher, instructional assistant. Again, I'm coming 13 years with doing this. If you would have told me, yes, we're going to allocate you one position, I'd be like, great, let's go. Now I can do an additional one, IA, what have you, and that would meet the need. I'm on your same side. I understand. I know that data that you rattled off. So I'm not, not making this recommendation, not aware of this. I just simply think that 8 positions is a lot to add in one fell swoop. I'm just giving you both perspectives and my honest opinion and recommendation.
Well, and I do appreciate that. I had asked for at one point, I don't think we've ever received how many positions and increases and supplements that we've done just collectively over the past, few years. And I don't think we ever received that. That might be something useful for us to get so that we can see kind of the broad, big picture scheme of things. I think that would be wonderful if it were broken down, like we had discussed by, how much that costs, where those positions are, if they're central office or within the buildings, special ed. And then Ms. McHale had suggested also having what positions have been reduced and what kind of savings, so that we could just have a broad overall kind of viewpoint of all of that.
Mr. Wells, at one point, did you not gather that information as to numbers? And I thought that you had, but I may be mistaken.
Yes, I have. I believe I sent that to the superintendent about 3 to 4 weeks ago. When the last time the request that came through.
That was
Yeah.
for our salary schedule meeting or budget meeting, right? That
Yes.
I think, I'm not sure if I've sent it to everybody, but I'm pretty sure I shared it with Ms. Springate.
Yeah.
I don't believe I've seen it, but I could have overlooked it. I think, and what I'm looking for is the things that have been added. So not just like a 80-page document of the salary schedule, but specifically
Right.
just what has been added over the past few years. So I'll double check on
Okay.
that, but I
And
don't believe I received it.
If not, not a problem to get it together. I mean, yeah. Thank you, Gary.
I think for this one, I just keep going back to the fact that I think we'll accomplish the same thing, and I'd rather take this particular piece kind of a step by step. I think that by creating 4 positions, we would free up some of the Title I funds that they can use instead of them having to fund 2. So if we did nothing, they would have to fund 2 positions to try to keep everything we have today. By creating 4 positions, we would give them those, and they would have the ability, with the flexibility of more Title I funding for what they need. The principals can make their decision, and then we can always reevaluate it. If down the road they realize, hey, we do need additional help or assistance with this other position, that's always an option. But when I see a solution that we can get part of the way there, knowing that the rest of the way is going to be covered, I think it's a good play for us to kind of take that step instead of just creating 8 positions, as Mr. Asher mentioned. And I kind of lean on his expertise for this and the expertise of the principals that shared their insight. because they're the ones that are kind of in their day-to-day and seeing it. So that's kind of why I'm leaning towards the 4 positions as opposed to the 8.
Great. Any other comments, questions? Okay, are we ready to take a vote?
If I may add one more thing.
Yes.
This is something you need to decide because we can't keep pushing this down. You don't meet again until July 24th, and that puts them in a real bind as far as whether they have one or not and who they're going to put in that position. So that, again, I would add that to my recommendation.
Yeah, I
So
think
do
the
we-
only problem is that this is a special meeting, so we have to vote on the
Understood.
agenda item as it stands. What we could possibly do, pending the outcome of this, is just schedule maybe a quick teleconference if we needed to make another motion after this.
Okay.
To get it done.
Tomorrow or in the next day
Yeah,
or so,
like
quickly.
Quickly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank you.
if we could just vote, then I do have just a quick comment about that, so.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Nay. The motion fails 2-3.
My comment would be, really, the agenda item simply says reading and math interventionists be included in the staffing allocations for each elementary school. Mr. Chenoweth, could a motion be made just for reading or math interventionists? How would that work?
Yes, excuse me. The agenda for a special meeting just needs to be topical, not predictive. So you have interventionists on the agenda, so you have flexibility as to the motions that can be made under that topic.
So I believe we can make a motion, like Mr. Asher requested, for one interventionist at each elementary.
That's fine.
Yeah, so the motion would simply be, I make a motion that we add a interventionist, reading or math, be included in the staffing allocation at each elementary school. If approved according to Board Policy 02.4331, yearly staffing allocations would reflect this position.
Is that a motion?
It is.
Second.
It's a motion by Ms. Springate and a second by Mr. Brickler. Any further discussion? The only thing I would like to add is I much prefer this method simply because of what I said earlier. It leaves the flexibility at the schools to make their decisions on what they want to do and how they want to focus and what's most important to their kids. So I appreciate this.
Would it help to say as selected by SBDM, whether either or? Grant, I mean, should we identify that to the council, make that decision? I know they make all the staffing decisions. I mean, Ryan, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts go back to site-based where they have to approve a staffing plan.
Right.
So it
Yeah, yeah.
identifies
So at that
the
point,
positions.
Maybe at each year, then they could decide which one they want it to be.
Yeah. And that would be the case
So if we add
in any
SBDM
year.
in.
Is that correct, Grant?
Does it have to be added in if that's how they do it anyway, or?
I think that's implicit.
Is that
Okay.
okay? So,
In
I
adding
wasn't sure
or.
because of it being,
Yeah,
okay.
it would leave the discretion with them as to which side of the or.
Just
check out.
interventionist, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, okay.
Good deal.
Okay, any other questions, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes 5-0.
And if I can make one more comment, just about what, I just want you to be fully aware what pockets of money schools have. The board, years ago, was smart, and I benefited from it when I was at Northside. When they took away textbook money and resource money at the state level, the board funds that now. It's, I can't remember the code off the top of my head, but that's a pool of money they have. They also have another pool that is for professional development that they can pull from. Beyond those, and I get requests all the time, if they have unmet needs, particularly to curriculum instruction, which is where most of the needs are, then they can come to us, I say myself and Ms. Tracy there for support. And majority of the time, I won't put a percentage of it, but majority of the time, we're able to help them out. Not always with a full position or something like that, because those get expensive, but when we're talking about resources, we're typically able to meet their needs. So thank you for your vote tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Asher. Okay, item, I guess would this still be I, or did we add I with the second motion? It was all within H? Okay, so we're on I, which is, can I have a motion to approve classified additional service stipend?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. McCowan,
Second.
second by Ms. Glass. Any discussion? No? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0. Okay, the next item is the superintendent's evaluation. Should we have a motion first, Grant? I need to read this out?
I recommend reading it out and then entertaining a motion to adopt
Okay.
that as the summative evaluation.
Okay. I'm just writing myself a note so I remember what to say. Okay. So our special, our early meeting executive session was to go through the superintendent evaluation. I will read out each of the standards and then give you the overall score for that standard. Number 1 is strategic leadership. The superintendent creates conditions that result in strategically re-imaging the district's vision, mission, and goals to ensure that every student who graduates from high school is globally competitive in post-secondary education and the workforce and is prepared for life in the 21st century. This was rated as accomplished, which is a 3. Also, I should note, there's four scales, a scale of 1 to 4 that we use. Growth required, developing, accomplished, and exemplary. You can equate that to a scale of 1 to 4 if you wanted to. The second standard is instructional leadership. The superintendent supports and builds a system committed to shared values and beliefs focused on teaching and learning, where performance gaps are systematically eliminated over time, and every student graduates from high school, college, and career ready. Overall evaluation was accomplished. Cultural leadership. The superintendent understands and acts on the important role a systems culture has in the exemplary performance of all schools. The evaluation was developing. Human resource leadership. The superintendent ensures the district is a professional learning community with processes and systems in place that result in recruitment, induction, support, evaluation, development, and retention of a highly effective, diverse staff. That was evaluated as accomplished. Managerial leadership. The superintendent ensures that the district has processes and systems in place for budgeting, staffing, problem solving, communicating expectations, and scheduling that organize the work of the district and give priority to student learning and safety. Superintendent must solicit resources, both operating and capital, monitor their use, and assure the inclusion of all stakeholders in decisions about resources as so to meet the 21st century needs of the district. That was rated as accomplished. I gotta take a sip of water, sorry. That's a lot of words. The sixth standard is collaborative leadership. The superintendent, in concert with the local Board of Education, designs structures and processes that result in broad community engagement with support for and ownership of the district vision. That was rated as developing. And influential leadership. Superintendent promotes the success of teaching and learning by understanding, responding to, and influencing the larger political, social, economic, legal, ethical, and cultural context. From this knowledge, the superintendent works with the Board of Education to define mutual expectations, policies, and goals to ensure the academic success for all students. The rating there was accomplished. Is there a motion to adopt this as our summative evaluation?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Brickler,
Second.
second by Ms. Glass. Okay. Any other discussion?
I would just like to say, I know I said this last year, and I'll just say it again this year. We really have to find a way to allow differing viewpoints to have a seat at the table so that all thoughts and ideas can be heard and appreciated. Additionally, I think we need full transparency. The board can't make informed decisions if we don't have all the needed information.
It's fine, and I'd like to note that every single person on the board has one vote. It does not have to reflect one person's viewpoints. Everyone is weighted equally, and the outcome of what we just read through and everything that we arrived at is the average of all people sitting at this table. Okay. Any other questions, comments? Can we vote? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0. Next item is the treasurer's report. Mr. Smith?
Good evening. The first document we will look at is the balance sheet report. I will go through the fund balances and answer any questions that you may have afterwards. So the general fund balance as of the end of May is $14,865,618.83. The special revenue fund balance is $691,071.49. The district activity fund balance is $409,707. The school activity fund balance is $464,060. The capital outlay fund balance is flush to zero now. The building fund balance is $150,214. The construction fund balance is $60,846,366. The debt service fund is $1,930,038. The food service fund is at $718,837. The daycare operation fund balance is $710,846. And I just wanted to touch on this since we discussed this earlier. This is the report that I have been providing and will continue to provide to show the health, the financial health of the daycare operations. And I'd be glad to answer any questions that you have about that, but that is what we've been providing for the daycare operations to show the financial health there. The community education fund balance is $30,417, and that's it. As far as the ESSER reports, ESSER 2 has, well, it's essentially at zero. It's got a negative number, so we'll be cleaning that grant up and closing that one out. So that'll probably be the last report I submit for ESSER 2. The ESSER 3 has a remaining balance of $149,905. So with that, what questions do you have for me?
Mr. Smith, when do we have to have the ESSER 3 funds? Is that the fall?
ESSER 3 is September 30th of 2024.
2024?
Yes.
Okay.
And do we have a plan? Is that going to be used for summer school? Or are we still planning on using that for technology?
The last meeting I had with Mr. Asher and Mr. Rayburn, they had a plan to dissolve all those remaining funds for both technology and instructional purposes. So.
I do have a couple questions. The first one is about the tentative budget. Last month, we showed our fund balance dropping by $3 million from 9.3 to 6.3 million. And as I look at this May report, I see that our receipts are actually exceeding our expenses. Our income is more than our debts. And so I was wondering if you could just explain or help me understand why you're projecting a $3 million loss to the fund balance if, when I look at this report, it seems anyway that our revenue is exceeding our expenditures.
The fund balance is not decreasing by $3 million. I think you're referring to the beginning balance, and that dropped because there was a $2 million decrease from last year this year because of the $2 million that was used for the bond defeasance. One of the things I can say with certainty when it comes to revenue and the expenditure will go up significantly with the final payrolls that will be ran in June. Because of the way we annualize pay for teachers, we have additional payrolls that run at the end of June to catch up for where they didn't start until August, and we pay them for the previous July. So I think we'd had some email back around the end of December, the 1st of January, even though from a timing standpoint, we're approximately halfway through the fiscal year. We are not anywhere close to being halfway through the fiscal year from a payroll timing standpoint, and it's due to those additional payrolls that we have to run at the end of June. So when I calculated the ending balance that I put on the budget, I take the fund balance, I take out all the estimated payroll expenditures, I take out the encumbrances that are on purchase orders that are sitting there, and as best I can estimate what the ending fund balance is going to be based on those expenditures. And so that's how all those numbers come about on the budget.
And so you're estimating that it's going to go from 9.3 down to 6.3 for the beginning of next fiscal year, which is July 1?
What are you saying is 9 million? That was not the fund balance, I don't think, as
It
of
was
last year.
our current year beginning fund balance was 9.3 million. It's what you show on the reports, and that's what our
Well,
audit
yeah,
also
so
showed.
that's probably correct. I'm not looking
Okay.
at the fund balance, but again, $2 million of that was what we used to defease the bond debt. So
Well, and I do want to look at that. So if you look at on page 9, it shows our total expenditures. It's 28 million. And that does include the $2 million in bond defeasance. That's included. So our total expenditures as of this report, period 11, is 28 million. And then if you flip over to page 5, our total revenue is 33. And again, that does include that bond defeasance. It's already included. And so if you're looking at our revenue or receipts, 33 million is, maybe 5 million more or so than the 28 million that we have in total expenditures currently. And then I realized that June, we also have it's a bigger draw. So I went back and looked at our June 22 report, and our expenditures for last June were 4.8 million. So if we just kind of guess, maybe it's going to be more, maybe it's going to be 5 million, we still have enough in our total receipts, which includes the bond reimbursement, to cover the total expenditures, the 28 million, which includes the 2 million in bond defeasance. So I also looked at, I guess last year in June, we had a SEEK payment that came in of 800,000. Are we expecting to have that again this June?
we usually receive a SEEK payment every month, yes.
Okay, so even if expenses go up by, say it goes up by $2 million over the 4.8 of last year, we still, it looks like, just looking at this report, have enough revenue or receipts to cover that and not dip into this beginning balance. So for it to go down by 3 million, I'm not understanding that when you look at the expenses and the revenue, and they're about equal. Maybe we'll end a little bit with a little extra revenue. Where is that $3 million going projected for next fiscal year on July 1? Where will that, how, I just don't understand.
I'm not following your question, so I don't understand either. I think you're going to have to send me your question in an email and let me dissolve, because it's very difficult to stand here at this podium and track through 60 pages on this financial statement to follow what you're saying. I've worked for several hours on this budget to get this budget where it needs to be and project it as accurately as possible. And I feel like that I didn't overlook $3 million anywhere that's just going to pop up out of nowhere. So,
Because I don't really understand, because if expenses and income is about equal, then why would we be dropping $3 million from the fund balance that starts at 9.3 and now we're projecting to start at 6.3. I just don't understand that. If our income and revenue for this year are about equal, why are we saying come July 1 we're going to be $3 million down? I don't mind sending that in an email.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, the fund balance, the $9 million, $2 million comes off the top for the bond defeasance. There was no
And again, that's included in the expenditures on this May report.
Well,
So
I'd have
that's
to, I'd have to
included.
investigate that because the expenditure does not come out of the general fund. It's transferred to the debt service fund and it flows through there. So I'm not 100% sure I'm in agreement that that's what is reflected in that expenditure line, but I need to detail that out first.
Okay, that'd be great.
Other questions? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
I think we need a motion.
Oh, I thought we moved. Okay. Oh, that was for the other one. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the treasurer's report?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Glass,
Second.
second by Mr. Brickler. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
The motion passes 4-1. Anything under board member communications we need to discuss? This would be I think this was put on the agenda to discuss any professional conversations we were having with attorneys or contractors or anything like that.
I just wanted to add, it's not really board member communications per se, but I just wanted to thank my fellow board members for agreeing to cancel or postpone Mr. Atkins' special meeting for our evaluation a couple weeks ago when I was dealing with some family stuff. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
We are a team. Okay, anything else? There's no discussion items. The information items were attached. We don't have another need to go into executive session. So I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
A motion by Ms. Glass,
Second.
second by Mr. Brickler. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes 5-0. Thank you, everybody.